Welcome back to another episode of Shogun's CRO Expert Series, where I talk to e-commerce marketers, operators, and CRO agency owners about optimization and A/B testing, and really get to the heart of what you want to know about how to get more from your optimization experiments. Today, I'm talking to Will Laurenson. Will is the owner of Customers Who Click, a CRO agency for DTC brands, and he's also the host of a podcast of the same name. Will and I have a great conversation. We dive deep into the difference between conversion rate optimization and customer revenue optimization and why it matters. We talk about the importance of digging deeper than service level tests and how you can get in there with the data. We also talk about why sometimes small tweaks, tests that focus on small tweaks, don't actually make a big difference in what you should do instead. And we talk about shiny object syndrome and how it can absolutely ruin a brand's optimization journey. Will was a fantastic guest. And if you are an e-commerce brand who really wants to take bigger swings and have bigger gains in your optimization A/B testing efforts, I highly recommend taking 30 minutes to watch or listen to this episode and let me know what you think. I have Will Laurenson today. I'm very excited. He runs the agency Customers Who Click, and he is the host of the podcast of the same name. So, Will, thank you for letting me ask you a bunch of questions about CRO and get your insights. Can you introduce yourself? Let me know where you're coming from, a little bit about your agency and what you do.
Yeah, sure. Well, thanks for having me. So I'm in the UK. I'm in London, and I run Customers Who Click, as you mentioned. So we've been going for 5 years, just over 5 years, and the podcast has been going pretty much that whole time as well. So I think episode 281 went live this week when we're recording. We've got a few more recorded as well, so we'll be hitting 300 pretty quick, I think, or pretty soon. What else did you want to know?
No, that's it.
Yeah, Customers Who Click. We're a CRO agency just focused on e-commerce.
Yes. Awesome. And congratulations on 281 podcast episodes, almost 300. That's an accomplishment. That's a lot of podcasts. That's a lot of recording, a lot of research, a ton of work. But it's a great podcast. So I'm glad you started it.
Thank you.
All right, cool. So let's kick off talking kind of about, one of the things that I've been seeing, and I know a lot of other people in the industry are seeing, is the way people are approaching CRO is changing. The way we think about CRO is changing a little bit. And I know you are kind of evolving, and your company, Customers Who Click, is evolving too, into like from conversion rate optimization to customer revenue optimization. And I think that's really juicy because I think a lot of people are starting to think about that. And I kind of just wanted to hear from you what that shift means and like why it matters and why it should matter to merchants.
Yes. So I think there's two aspects of it. So firstly, conversion rate optimization for e-commerce doesn't really make sense as a thing, right? For B2B, it makes sense if you want leads, demos, quotes, anything like that, then you just want as many people to convert as possible. But in e-commerce, conversion rate doesn't mean you're making a lot of money. It doesn't mean revenue profit, because it depends how much people are spending, depends on your margins, your discounts, everything you're doing plays into that, and also returns, lifetime value, all that stuff. So the way we're looking at it, and how we've looked at it for a long time, really, but I finally got to the point where I've said, right, okay, we need to actually position this properly. Our focus is essentially just making more money for a client, right? And if that means just focusing on conversion rates, then that's what we'll do. Most of the time, it means doing a bit of work on conversion, a bit of work on AOV, margin, returns, things like that. Bit of a mix, and this is what we've seen generates the biggest impact for clients as well. Because also, when you limit it to just conversion, you are limiting yourself to just a certain way of thinking about the website and what it does and how to drive people through that. And naturally, I mean, everyone's heard the whole, reduce the number of fields in your forms. You want to reduce friction as much as possible. So if you go down that route, you can get conversion rate higher, but the business will suffer for other reasons. So we're trying to find that balance of how do we get as much money out of every visitor to the website as possible. And the other part we're looking at is just these days, with how websites are built in Shopify and how they're designed, these little tweaks are having less and less impact because generally the site is good enough in that sense. Unless you've done something to your site that actually makes it worse. Generally, with a fairly decent Shopify theme, if you've had a professional build, you should be good. And then it's about finding the big swings. And that's where, we have to come in and say, okay, well, should we add a quiz to this website, right? If you don't have a quiz, let's add a quiz, let's test it, see what happens. We launched a comparison page for a client recently, and they need to get more traffic into it. And I'm trying to push them to do that. But at the moment, it's out of their, I can't remember exactly how we filtered this, but out of the pages on their website that get above a certain amount of traffic, I think it's above about 1,000 visits in the last 30 days, it's their fourth highest value page, revenue per session. And it converts better than any of their product pages directly. So it's that sort of thing where, instead of trying to just highlight a couple of benefits of a product or making sure that free shipping is more visible, we're looking at these big changes. And I guess part of it's come from the is it PXL?
The framework?
The prioritization framework. And one of the elements on it is, are you adding or removing an element from a page? Mm-hmm. And it makes such a big difference, right? If you've got free shipping mentioned on your page and you move it above the fold and make it more visible, a few more people are seeing that than they did before. So you're only impacting a few more people. Whereas if that message is not on the page at all and you introduce it, everyone has that opportunity to see it. Yeah. And I think that same mindset works throughout the business, really. We're getting far bigger wins by saying, well, instead of just trying to optimize this upsell a little bit and see if this product works better than this product, we're saying, well, you haven't got bundles. So let's not worry about the upsells. Let's just introduce bundles and see if they work instead.
Yeah. Yeah. I love this because one, it almost simplifies things. So what I found is that when people, and this is brands of all sizes, when they go into A/B testing, it can feel really overwhelming because there are like thousands of elements you can test. I mean, you could run your site through any like type of tool and it'll tell you all of these different things. The one, that always like comes to mind that I use as example is like changing the color of your CTA button. It's like, yes, that can have an impact sometimes, but like, does it really have an impact? And I think what happens is DTC brands and ecom brands, they run these tests and then they're like, it's like, womp womp. And they're like, okay, well, what do I do with this data? It's not enough to get them excited because, like you said, they're talking about conversion rate optimization versus customer revenue optimization versus like the money that comes in the door and stays in the door because it's January, so it's return season. So I'm sure a lot of brands that had really good conversion rates last month are not seeing those types of things. The bigger swings, I think, are becoming more important because you're right. I mean, one of the things we've seen in Shogun, and it's why we created an A/B testing tool, is like 5-6 years ago, you could just say like, oh, it's just a pretty site. And now it's like, well, sites are pretty. Like you get a template, you get the right theme in Shopify, you're kind of golden. But it's digging a little bit deeper. And I feel like that's like the shift you've taken that you've been focusing on and that everyone is starting to focus on. Like it's not, there's just so many layers beneath that conversion rate optimization piece.
Yeah. And realistically, so many brands out there don't have the traffic and data to do these small tests. It takes a month to run the test. You've put in the time and effort for it. If it then has a minimal impact or worse, has a negative impact, you've wasted a whole month and you've got to start again and try something new. Whereas when we just say, okay, well, this thing doesn't exist, or at least let's radically change it. So actually with that comparison page, they did have a comparison page. It was just not great.
Yeah.
It's almost like they were trying to use it as a sales page. All the information was on there. So we just condensed it and made it much more of a, should I click on this product, this product, this product, or this product, and then get the information I need? And that's worked really, really well.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. It's very interesting. And it kind of brings me to my next question for you is one of the things that you and everyone at Customers Who Click does is this UAM method. So I kind of want to hear your perspective on what that means and why it's important and how it's helped you and your customers.
So I'm trying to potentially change all the naming conventions for use because I don't actually like
Great.
them. But so UAM's part of our customer revenue optimization framework. And the UAM does actually relate purely to the conversion side of things. It's basically, so usability, is the website easy to use? If I land on it, can I find the product I want? Can I select my options? Can I click on the size guide and use it properly? Can I watch any video or, whatever I need to do as part of that experience to make the purchase? Can I do it? Then you've got the anxiety side, which is questions and concerns. What do I want to know about this product to be able to buy it? So not necessarily to want to buy it. There's obviously a bit of a want and need anyway. That's why you're there in the first place. But I mean, if we're talking a bit more about the technical aspects of the product. Yeah. The example I always use for some reason is a standing desk. When I was buying a standing desk, I was looking at, is it the right dimensions for the space I've got? What is it, electric or manual mechanism? How high can it go? How much weight could it hold? And a few other things. So I needed to know, can I buy this product? Right? Because does it fit my requirements? But then you've got the motivation piece, which is this going to make my life better? Right? And the motivation piece behind a standing desk was, if I'm there the whole time, I do want to be standing up at times. It's better for me. I actually find a lot of the time my almost like energy is a bit better, and I concentrate on different tasks differently if I'm standing up to when I'm sitting down. So that really worked for me. Then we also have our what is currently called MPM, and I'm going to change it. It's not on our website, so it's fine. Which is margin protection mechanisms. That's the revenue optimization side of things, really, which is we're looking at how do we increase AOV, how do we test offers, bundles, upsells, post-purchase, pricing, shipping, anything related to the amount of money that people spend and the amount of money that's collected by the business. And but then we're combining those two, and that's what mostly forms the customer revenue optimization piece.
I love that because it has like the UAM method is really like digging deeper, right? Like, because there's only so much data that you have that's kind of surface level. And then there's kind of this usability, anxiety, motivation. It's like, what is actually getting your shoppers buying? What makes them excited? What scares them? Like, it's that whole piece that you don't see in your analytics. Like you just don't see in Google Analytics or your heat map or whatever. You actually usually have to talk to customers or do some surveys or try and get feedback. That's qualitative data that is so critical. But I also love that you're combining it with the pricing piece because that is massive. I mean, it is thinking about margins, thinking about, especially in the past year, I know you're in the UK, but I'm in the US. A lot of brands were impacted by tariffs. So they had to think about how their margins were changing, how their COGS were changing, all of that good stuff. Like you can't have one without the other. Like you can focus on price, but if you don't understand the motivation, your prices are not going to actually work. And then you can focus on the motivation part, but if you get too wrapped up in that and forget like the dollar or the euros, it just you need both. Like I think it's just a full cycle, full circle kind of take on it, and they're both so critical.
Yeah, I think a great example to look at is True Classic, right? They've built I don't know how much they're doing now. Last I heard, about a year ago was about $300 million revenue selling t-shirts, right? They've expanded a lot. So I imagine they've grown their revenue quite a lot. But I think it was about 300 million just selling t-shirts and Henley shirts and
Yeah.
maybe a couple of others. So how did they make their t-shirts 2 to 3 times the price of basically any other t-shirt really that you'd like plain t-shirt that you'd buy on a website or on Amazon or something? And it's because they really focused on the value and the motivation and the anxiety piece, really, to get people to convince that not only is it the right product for them, but it was actually worth the money.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a great example. That brand they are a fascinating case study. Yeah, they're just fascinating because they are crushing it with, like
Yeah.
you say, t-shirts. Like it is t-shirts. I mean, they have expanded, but yeah, they do so many things right on their site. All right, so we've been talking about kind of what's important, right? This like revenue and the pricing and the understanding the layers that come into shopping and purchasing. So I want to talk to you about like the opposite, which is kind of shiny object syndrome. So you and I have touched on this before in our own conversations. AI is here to stay. Pandora's box is open, and AI is coming up a lot in e-commerce, especially in CRO. Like I'm seeing a lot of, run your site through this AI tool. And I kind of want to know from your perspective is like when it comes to either apps or tools or anything AI, like how can people protect themselves from this shiny object syndrome and really only implement things and tests or changes that are going to be worth it? Do you have any like thoughts on this?
Yeah. So kind of actually, so a third part of our model is related to this really, which is trying to get the brands we work with to use this same kind of scientific approach to everything they do within a business. So if they're going to launch a new product line, if they want to hire people, if they want to install new apps, take it through that process of what's our problem that we're trying to solve, what's our hypothesis, what's our measurement of success, and in a lot of cases, are we going to make money within 30 days on this? That more
Mhm.
applies to apps, really. And so get people to think about it like really deeply before they action stuff.
Yeah.
And the issue with apps is it's so easy to go, that looks really cool, click install, and then you forget about it. You don't spend the time to properly review it. Then you've got an extra app with code on your website, potentially an extra subscription if you activated the charge. And people forget about it, right? And
Mhm.
the e-commerce manager who is allowed to do that but doesn't see the finances quite quickly forgets that subscription's going out every month. So yeah, take a really good structured approach to, do we need to do this thing? Is it a priority now? Do we have the resources to do this now as well? And actually spend, I don't know, I haven't thought about this where it's just come into my head, but assigning an amount of time for it, saying,
Yeah.
do we have 10 to 15 hours to put into this in the next 2 weeks? Let's say it's got a 2-week trial. Do we have 15 hours to put into this to actually at least test it out properly? If not, don't bother because you're not going to get anywhere
Mhm.
with it. When it comes to AI, I think AI is really, really good at helping with analysis really quickly and helping point things out. It's pretty bad, I think, at giving you actual recommendations on what to do.
Yeah.
So a bit like Google Analytics, right? Google Analytics tells you where the problems are on your website, but it doesn't tell you why those problems occur or what you need to do. It's the same with AI. I think it could be really useful to have an app that would tell you, okay, on these days, your paid media traffic doesn't add to cart as well as other days.
Mhm.
Okay. And that gives you an insight you could maybe go and explore. Or generally, on these days, you tend to see lower AOV, or bundles get selected more on these days, or this traffic selects bundles more. That's the sort of insight that'd be really useful.
Yeah.
But you've got to go figure out what you actually do with that information. but I think that's absolutely fine because I think AI. I've tried it loads of times. There was a little period on LinkedIn where people were giving out AI like CRO audit prompts,
Yes.
and I tested a bunch out, and they were just so top level
Hmm.
and just didn't. They're not based on anything. They're literally looking at a website and going, okay, well, based on what I think best practice is, you should change this, but it's got no data,
Right. Yeah.
right? I looked. In fact, I had this earlier on a call. I was being a partner got in touch about us doing CRO for one of their clients, and he told me the conversion rate was like 5.8%, which is huge.
Yeah.
Um, and given the amount of revenue and traffic they're doing, that's absolutely fantastic, and the number of products they've got. So I said, well, based on looking at their website, it seems fine. Like I can't. I'm sure if I did a detailed step by step look through of their site, I could point some things out and say, I think you probably do better with this, do better with that. Maybe you want to change that. But if they're converting at 5.8%, I've got no idea if those changes are going to have an impact. I need to look
Yeah.
at the data and find out, what traffic is, because there must be some traffic that converts very high, and there'll be some traffic that's not converting very well. So
Mhm.
that's when you have to go and do that exploration. And AI doesn't do that.
Yeah. Yeah. It can't see under the hood, right? It can just see the surface level stuff, but it doesn't, unless you're feeding it every single piece of data point you have, which I'm assuming most people are not doing. It can't give you that full scope.
Yeah.
It can be a good starting point. So, my last question, because this kind of brings it up, I feel like the theme of our conversation today is there's so much under the hood, like A/B testing, CRO. It's not just switching buttons, switching headlines. Like that stuff can be important, but there are bigger swings. There are bigger things you need to be considering. So, let's say a brand, we know the brand has the traffic, they're doing, $10 million in revenue, they've got great traffic, and they are considering CRO. What are some things they should know? What are some things they should do outside of reaching out to an agency like yours? What would be the first steps that you would kind of counsel a brand who's like, we've actually never done testing, we've been crushing it, but like maybe this is the next step. Where should they start?
Look at the purchase journey
Mm,
first. So, how many of all the sessions that come to the website, how many people view a product? How many of those people add to cart? How many of those people start checkout? How many of those people complete checkout? That's going to tell you where your problem is 90% of the time. There's a bit of interpretation at times. Sometimes you have to look at the website as well. We're speaking to a brand who's got a 90% product view rate, but their add to cart rate is low. Now, obviously, because their product view rate is really high, that will drive a lower add to cart rate anyway. But also, they drive a lot of Google shopping traffic, right? So people are coming in. So people aren't browsing the website and finding the product. They're landing on a specific product. And what we think is happening is they're landing on a product, but the navigation and the rest of the discoverability on the website isn't good enough for them to go find the actual product they want. And that's why
yeah,
we're seeing drop off at that stage. Because once people add to cart, they actually convert quite well.
yeah,
So that's where we think the
interesting.
problem is. So I would look at the purchase journey. And I think, a really big win for so many brands is just looking at your average order values, your like modal order values, your abandoned cart values, and understanding how they correlate to your free shipping threshold, and therefore what you can do for your AOV. The
Yeah.
majority of the time, vast majority of the time, we see free shipping thresholds that are either way too low or way too high.
Huh.
And it's such an easy fix to say, well,
Yeah.
if it's lower than your average order value or your modal order value, actually, you can increase it.
Hmm.
If you're way too high, then the first things I'd look at doing is just looking over bundles, upsells, do the increase value thing first,
Hmm.
and then I don't know. Let's say your free ship threshold is $150, and your AOV or model value is like 75, 80. Do some upsells and things first, do the bundles, try and get people spending more money. If you can lift that up to 110, 120, then you can say, well, maybe we bring our free shipping threshold down a bit.
Yeah.
So it's closer to that value. And then you'll get more people who then will just spend that last bit of money, that last little upsell just to get the free shipping threshold. So there's a lot of again, coming back to the shiny object stuff, really, what I said there, it's not jumping to conclusions too quickly with some of the data and saying our free shipping threshold is too high, let's drop it. The first thing should be, well, how do we move people towards the free shipping threshold first?
Yeah.
Then if we need to, we'll drop it.
Yeah.
Because if you drop it first, it's a bit like discounting. If you discount heavily and then stop, you get hurt. So if you pull your free shipping threshold down, it's then difficult to push it back up, because you'll have customers who know what that threshold is. They know what they can spend. Suddenly, if they're not getting that free shipping threshold, they're going to get annoyed.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that makes perfect sense to me. And again, it goes back to the conversation we've been having. Like, you got to look at the whole picture. You just have to. You can't dive in. It takes some time. It's worth the time, though.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. Well, we're out of time. I could talk to you for another 30 minutes, but I will not do that. So, Will Laurenson, I know everyone can find you at Customers Who Click. You're also on LinkedIn, which is how I found you. So lots of good stuff. I will link everything below. Anything else that you want to plug? Is the podcast on Customers Who Click too? Or is that its own website?
It's not on the website. Well, it's not really on the website at the moment. It will be on our new website soon. But it's on Spotify, iTunes. It's just Customers Who Click.
Perfect.
So you can find it there.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining me. Again, I will link everything so you can find Will if you are curious about his work or learning more from him. And yeah, enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll talk to you soon.
Thanks for having me.
And there you have it. That was my conversation with Will Laurenson of Customers Who Click. I hope you learned something new. If you did, I'd love to know what that was. You can drop it in the comments below. I have also linked everywhere you can find Will, including his LinkedIn and his podcast, Customers Who Click, which is absolutely phenomenal. I highly recommend subscribing to that. And we'll be back in a few weeks with another episode of our CRO Expert series. So tune in to get some more answers from more experts.